About this, the dynamic of the election is completely different with this. Here's an example. You know Doug Henwood?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I think our audience very familiar with Doug Henwood. He has been, when I think of socialists or radicals that politically radical that I've been aware of for years. I used to read the Left Business Observer 15 years ago, and listen to his radio shows. He wrote apparently on Facebook, "I've been hating on the Democratic Party in public for almost 35 years, in private for longer than that. But I have to say, and I don't see how anyone could deny this, if a Democrat were president now, there just wouldn't be anywhere near as many dead and doomed people. The CDC might not have been richly funded, but it certainly wouldn't have been eviscerated. With talented people not wanting to go anywhere near it, the pandemic task forces wouldn't have been disbanded and probably would have been listened to fairly early on. Given the choice between neoliberal technocrats and proudly ignorant yahoos, I'm going to have to go with the former. I'm not going to stop agitating for a world where we could have better choices, but as long as it's a forced binary, as they say in the polling business, it's an easy answer. Sorry if this disturbs anyone. Sort of disturbs me, but you have to be honest with self and others. And I don't know how you argue with that. And
that's my take. That's my take too,
And I think that's the sentiment that a lot of people are going to have. And I think that we're going to see more of those numbers as we get closer to the election. But again, the next question is like, what are the Democrats doing? Like, is there really a calculus that if we put more people on Medicaid in this crisis and pandemic, that we're going to lose votes? I mean, who is the insurance company that's going to pour all this money into, reelect Donald Trump because he's dealing with the pandemic so well?
But look, he doesn't need a ton of money. We saw he had way less money in 2016, and he has the incumbency. He has the advantage of both being an incumbent and also appearing like an outsider, which I don't want to underestimate.
I saw a stat the other day that if Joe Biden raised $1 million more than Trump every day, starting 3 days ago, he still would not have more money than Donald Trump. Donald Trump already has a massive war chest.
And Biden's already having trouble. There are articles that he's having trouble.
Yep.
Hopefully
he won't need the money. I mean, the upshot is that there's not going to be any field work. There's not going to be any get out the vote. The get out the vote is going to be, I think what we're going to see is something very similar to potentially the dynamic that we saw in Wisconsin, which is that people are just like really, really angry at Donald Trump and the Republicans. And we'll see. In the meantime, people should be pressuring Nancy Pelosi. She came out. I don't know if you saw this. There was a story that came out in the Washington Post the other day, and I know you got to go in a minute, but we will do that in a moment. But there was a piece that came out in the Washington Post the other day where she said, "No more Mr. Nice Guy for me." And I'm convinced that is her realizing that they screwed up with this ice cream thing, that there is a lack of patience from Democrats. Like, this is on Trump. This is on the Republicans.
Right.
And the Democrats' failure to even in any way push back on some type of false narrative is not enough of a justification for them to go after nothing and to use none of their leverage. It's just not going to work. So supposedly in this next round, phase 4, and we're starting to hear more from the Squad and the Progressive Caucus, they're going to go for things like voter protection. They're going to go for things like, automatic economic stabilizers, because if there is a Republican controlled Senate and Joe Biden's president in February of 2021 and unemployment is still at 15, 20%, Mitch McConnell is going to say, we're not giving any more funds.
Yep.
And in fact, I think that's what he was doing this week when he said, we got to start worrying about the deficit. That is just all so that he has justification in the event that there's a Democratic president. I've been saying this for 6 to 8 months. I've been saying this for a year. we need to watch out for the deficit. So people really need to pressure, I think, their Congress people. They should be getting back to work. They should be in Washington, D.C. They can socially distance there. They can be an example for the rest of the country. But who is more essential in a pandemic than the leaders of the country?
When you're right, you're right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
there
you
you
for
go.
that.
You're welcome.
Emma, where can folks check you out? You're putting out some videos right on QIT?
Yeah, so youtube.com/rebelhq, facebook.com/rebelhq. Follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm my best.